afternoon and welcome to Afternoon Express. Nurturing good habits is important for our well-being, and today we speak to gynecologist Dr. Palesa Kennedy on womanhood and the importance of preventative screenings. We also chat about back pain, and we have a panel discussion on how to cultivate good habits to progress in life. On social media, we would like to know from you, what is one good habit that you've recently adopted that has improved your life? Remember to use the hashtag Afternoon Express. Today is International Gynecology Health Day, and I'm joined by Dr. Palesa Kennedy, who will guide us through the physical and emotional changes women face throughout their life and how to embrace each phase with confidence. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Zoraida.
So I think that only if you're a woman and if you've gone through all those stages of like puberty, pregnancy and menopause, can you really understand firsthand what a woman goes through. Am I right?
That's very true. That's why in practice, I usually rely on personal experience in order to get my message across to all my patients.
I love that. So I am a mom of a teenage daughter, and I would love to speak to you about what are the processes that they are going through right now hormonally, and what should we be looking out for?
Okay, with teenagers, they're pretty simple. The only thing we're worried about is periods.
Doctor, they're not simple, but yes.
I know. But the only thing we're really worried about is periods.
Okay.
So usually in the first 3 years, the periods can become a bit wonky as long as they don't overbleed to a point where it starts affecting their school life, or they don't have too much pain to a point where they stop going to school completely.
Yes.
That's when we start worrying about the teenager.
So when you say wonky, do you mean like irregular periods?
Irregular period. Either they overbleed or they bleed in between the periods.
Okay.
But
so that's normal for the first 3 years?
For the first 3 years. That's what we call puberty or a menarche, that's what we call it.
Okay.
And usually the first periods are not going to be ovulatory. That means that they're not going to be regular. They're not going to have some sort of cycle.
Okay.
As long as they bleed every 21 to 45 days and they don't have excessive pain. You should not be having excessive pain in the first 3 years of starting your period.
Okay.
If you do have such excessive pain, or if the bleeding becomes so hectic that they can't concentrate in school, they don't want to do any more sports, that's when you worry.
Then you, okay, that's when you have concerns. Speak to me about when should your teenager have their first visit to the gynecologist?
Basically, when they start having issues. I mean, seeing a gynecologist is not a normal thing for a teenager for various reasons. It's only when they're having bad periods or when they're having excruciating period pains that need some sort of intervention.
Okay.
And I mean, I always say a girl that's raised by a mom, you know how the periods should feel like, and you often would be able to guide your daughter in knowing what is normal and what is abnormal. And so I encourage moms a lot to speak to their kids from even as young as 6 to knowing what it is. Because the problem with these young girls is because initially the periods are not normal, it's very difficult to pick up problems unless it's too late.
Yes.
So if you're in tune with your daughter and you're having these conversations regularly, and she's understanding what to do and how to change her sanitary pads and how often she should be changing her sanitary pads, then she'd be able to tell you when she's overbleeding or when there's underbleeding. We're not really worried about at that stage. What we're constantly worried about is when they're overbleeding, when they're bleeding through their sanitary pads.
Thank you. Thank you for that, doctor. And then when it comes to, you know, reproductive health, when should we start zoning into that?
The moment you start kissing boys, that's what I always say. So a young girl should have a first gynecologist appointment the moment she starts thinking about having sexual intercourse.
Okay.
So because then the screening, that's when we're worried about important screenings. We're worried about introducing contraception and preventing unwanted pregnancies at that point. We're worried about HPV vaccinations. So as soon as you start kissing boys or thinking about kissing boys, that's the moment where you need to start having the conversation with a reliable person that will be able to guide you through each and every step. And that's when you should be seeing your gynecologist.
I love that you mentioned HPV. Can you please tell us what that stands for, number one? And then I also believe that because I have a teenage daughter, there is something called an HPV vaccination. Tell us about that. When does one go for that? You know, is there a particular age range? Can I still go for it?
So HPV stands for human papilloma virus. Now, it's a virus that's very common. It's as common as herpes and any other virus. It's usually a virus that doesn't cause any issues or any problems. A lot of us walk around with HPV and we don't even know it. It's often sexually transmitted, but in girls or in women, it has been found that HPV increases your risk for cervical cancer. That's when the work came about with trying to create something to reduce the risks of cervical cancer, which is the most common cancer worldwide. So that's when they came about making the vaccination, and we found that getting the vaccine early in life, before your first sexual debut, that's the current advice, reduces your risk of getting cervical cancer. Currently, we are aiming at getting all girls vaccinated before their sexual age debut, which is the ages between 9 and 13. That's what we're gearing towards. But of course, we've got new studies now that have shown that women that get the vaccination by the age of 26 are still protected, and we do use it in a subset of women in their postmenopausal in order to who already have the HPV. In order to reduce their risks as well.
Wow, that's interesting and fascinating. Okay, so I should look into doing that with my daughter. Let's talk about menopause, perimenopause, menopause and postmenopause, because that can last anywhere from, what is it, like 5 to 20 years, that perimenopausal phase?
So menopause, by definition, is just mainly your period stopping, right? It's what happens in the build-up to your period stopping that we're worried about, what we talk about, that perimenopausal period, because your hormones go all wonky and you start feeling all emotional, your bleeding goes all haywire, you start having what we call hot flushes, which are brought on by the sudden drop in estrogen. So that's the period that we basically worry about. Now, I like looking at it as a phase in life you can't avoid. You know, a lot of women come in like, how can I avoid the menopause? You can't. You're going to have puberty. You're going to have menopause. You're going to start your period. It's going to end. That's the way of life. This is not an issue for every woman, as in not every woman becomes symptomatic for menopause. So it's okay. We don't all have to go on something for menopause. It's not a disease. It's a phase in life. Just like we don't give every girl going through puberty a contraceptive pill, we don't give every woman going through perimenopause a hormonal tablet. Now, when it starts affecting your lifestyle, you're having hot flushes so you can't sleep, you're emotional so you're charging at everyone, that's when we start introducing something that would help you ease over that phase. And you're right, that phase could take anything between 5 and 10 years. I mean, the average age of menopause is around 52 years. And these changes could start rearing their ugly head around 45. So you have a whole 10 years of feeling absolutely miserable, which is absolutely unnecessary. That's when we start introducing things such as hormonal replacement therapy. Another problem with that phase is the symptoms of perimenopause are similar to the symptoms of other problems like cervical cancer, as well as other ovarian cancers. So the symptoms are very, very similar. So that is why once you start feeling the symptoms, go and seek help, go and see your gynecologist, just to exclude the possibility of pathology, and also to talk about how you could be ushered into this new phase of your life.
Doctor, so much insight into this incredible journey that, like you say, all women are going to go through. I can't wait to discuss more of this with you. Thank you so much. Well, what a powerful conversation, shedding light on the key stages of womanhood and providing valuable insights on how to navigate each phase with confidence and with care. Don't go away, because after the break, we speak about back pain and how to cultivate good habits to progress in life.